Welcome to the Weekly Roar, coming live from the Lion's Den, helping new managers become great leaders and awesome bosses. And now, here's your host, Greg Storch.
Hey there, everybody. Happy November and welcome to the Weekly Roar. It's great to have you all back here in the Lion's Den for this week's watch party. Man, it's hard to believe that October's over. But time and tide wait for no man, right? I spent most of my October traveling around Italy and Germany with our longtime friends from Australia. We vacationed with them in Hawaii 2 years ago for my 50th birthday that my wife affectionately dubbed Hawaii 5-0. So it was really good to see them again and spend some time together. But here I am back in the seat again this week. Today, I'm talking about another pivot as I continue my series on making pivots in our leadership. But before we start talking about today's pivot, I'm Greg Storch. I'm the founder of Lion Enterprise, a leadership development and coaching business where I focus on helping organizations create winning cultures. I'm a certified professional coach and a certified leadership speaker and trainer. Last week, I spoke about making a pivot to helping others forge their own paths. It was really all about making that pivot that allows us as leaders to stop, turn, and reach out our hands to help others along in their journeys. Hey, at the end of the day, it's as simple as changing our focus away from ourselves and turning it to others. If you weren't able to see the Weekly Roar last Wednesday, then just head over to my website at www.lion-enterprise.com. Check out video number 78 for last week's session in the Lion's Pride Library, where you can also find all my other videos. The Lion's Pride Library is free, and it's a great way for you to get more of the roar. Okay, let's talk about another pivot leaders may want to make in order to reach their full leadership potential. Today, I'm talking about making a pivot that allows leaders to move from dictation to collaboration, and how we can stop barking orders and start connecting borders with our followers. See what I did there? Let's kick off November with a pivot to the art of connecting. Now, I'm going to start off today with an admission to all of you. It took me almost my entire career to finally make this pivot. I feel like because I was in the military for so long, I felt like leadership was really just about directing people to get them to do what you wanted them to do. And in the military, that's easy to do because as you move up in rank, you just bark out orders and your followers have to listen because you outrank them. That worked okay while I was on active duty, but what do you think happened the first time I took a leadership position after I retired from the military and was working in the real world? I had to keep reminding myself that these people weren't my sailors. I couldn't just tell them what to do and how I wanted things to get done. That worked for me at one point in time, but not every situation supports that type of leadership. Now, I definitely had to adapt and develop a leadership style that worked well in my new situation outside of the military. It was through my own personal growth journey that I learned and developed my natural tendency to be a servant leader. Now, one of the biggest things I found that helped me to make this pivot within the last decade was valuing people. One of my taglines was that I put the human into human resources. What I was really trying to say was that I put people first. And this is really what today's pivot is all about. So if you find yourself leading others in any capacity, really, take a quick assessment and see where you're at right now. Are you still directing people every day on what you want done and how you want it done? Is that your idea of communicating your vision? If so, maybe this pivot is something that may help you change things and begin to see improvements. One of the biggest things we can do as leaders, one of the biggest lessons we can learn or be reminded of, is the importance of relationships with others and how they play a major role in our success and our failures. Any one of you who has spent time in the corporate world can attest to the importance of relationships, especially when it comes to leadership and business. Now, one of my favorite books, you probably all know, is called Everyone Communicates, Few Connect, and it was written by John C. Maxwell. It's my favorite because, well, I connected with it. When I read it, it made complete sense to me. And it's all about taking our communication to the next level by learning how to connect with people. And that's why I'm really excited about today's pivot. I love talking about connecting. Now, what I've learned is that it's not easy to do it. Connecting is hard, and it's not easy to find common ground with others. And that's one sure way of making a connection with other people, find common ground. But I've gotten a lot better. If you want to become a better leader than you already are, then this pivot might just be what you need to go to the next level. Now, I know that some of you watching today are great connectors, and you have read the book I just mentioned. If so, then this should be an easy lesson for you today. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But for those of you who have not studied the art of connecting with others or read that book, then tune in because I'm about to share some insights with you on how you can transform into a leader who connects. One of the things I realized early on as I developed my servant leadership style was the importance of being humble. You see, when you're in a leadership position, if you don't have yourself in check, it can be easy to become full of yourself. When your team achieves success, the boss recognizes you for the accomplishment, right? Good leaders understand that their success has everything to do with those they're leading. You know, when I served in the Navy, as I'm sure is the case with all the services, it's common to be awarded a personal medal for achievements that go above and beyond the call of duty or that exceed expectations. Over the course of my 24-year career, I received 12 personal decorations. And as I look back on each one of those awards, I can honestly say that every single one of them was the result of the efforts of those I led, not just my own actions. Leaders who understand the need for other people to be successful are good. But the leaders who let their people know how important they are to their success are great. So, one of the ways to become a good connector is to become or remain humble. Don't make things about you. Always focus on others. Now, of course, it's okay to accept compliments when you do a good job. Just don't let those compliments go to your head. You know what? I also just thought of another great way to show your humility to others. And sometimes this can be a little difficult for leaders because they believe they have to be perfect. But actually understanding where you fall short and admitting your failures actually makes you more relatable to people. They want to know that you're fallible. They don't want to think you're infallible, you never make mistakes. They can't relate to that. Now, here's a big one that I wanted to share today when it comes to becoming a better connector. Now, one thing I learned is that if I want to connect with people, I have to be willing to go first. I have to go to them and initiate. But what happens when you cross that bridge? Then what? So you walk up to somebody, and then what do? Well, this is where being curious will pay off. One of the best ways we can begin to connect with people and find common ground is by asking questions. That's right. We have to get curious. That probably sounds kind of simple, but if you think about it, how many bosses or leaders do you know who think that they already have all the answers? So that's what I'm saying. Don't be the leader who thinks they have the solutions to every problem. One of the best ways to get your team to move in the same direction is to connect with them. And you can do that by asking questions of them. When you ask questions, that gives them a sense of ownership, and it also develops a sense of trust within your teams. Asking questions, getting curious as a leader is a great way to find common ground with people. And when you can find common ground with them, you can connect. I think one of the reasons why it took me a little longer to move towards becoming a better connector was that it does take a lot of energy and effort. It doesn't just happen. You have to go first. And that takes effort to do it. Sometimes it can feel like a hassle. Why go through all of that? Well, because when we make the effort for somebody, when we go out of our way to connect with them, they remember that. Now, that goes back to what I was saying about the importance of relationships. One of the best ways to form a strong relationship is to show effort. And that holds true whether you're working in a professional setting or if you're talking about personal relationships. I mentioned earlier about thinking about others first. Another way to establish a connection is to think of others first, being generous and giving. And you can only do that when you stop being selfish. Now, I think I may have shared the story about Mike Daniels before, but I just love the story. And it's a great example of what I'm talking about here, how being generous and giving can help us to become great connectors. So, Mike Daniels, or Mikey D, as I called him, was a young IT engineer on one of my contracts in DC. He was a personable young man, very respectful and soft spoken. He always called me Mr. Storch. Everybody else called me Greg. But when he came to talk to me, hey, Mr. Storch, he was also a very hard worker and great at his job. Now, I spent time connecting with Mikey. I asked him questions and I learned that he coached a small boys baseball team, Little League. When he talked about his boys, I could see him get excited. His energy level went up a notch or two. He was a proud coach. Well, the contract that I was running was located right across the street from the Washington Nationals baseball stadium. That's right, our current World Series champions, the Washington Nationals. The company I worked for held season tickets, and the seats they had were awesome. They were on the fifth row up between home plate and first base. There were a lot of times that those season tickets would actually go unused and they would be offered to employees. So normally they would be offered to me as the program manager since I was running the contract literally right across the street from the ball field. So they knew last minute I could give those tickets away and it wouldn't be a problem. Well, one evening I had the opportunity to get all four of the season tickets and I gave them to Mikey so he could take some of his players to the game. Those little boys had never attended a Major League Baseball game, and this was a real treat that their coach was able to deliver. Mikey was so appreciative, and that one small act of generosity helped me connect with him as an employee. Although that wasn't my motive. Mikey was very loyal to me in my program because of that one small action. See, I believe that connecting with people is the ability to take our communication to the next level with them. And one of the key ingredients in the communication loop is listening, right? If I hadn't worked on my listening skills, I would have never picked up on Mikey's little league baseball team, or Phyllis's struggles as a single parent, or the surprise divorce that Sarah went through. You get it. Listening helps you pick up on things. If you don't develop the ability to actively listen as a leader, it won't be long before your followers stop talking to you. But listening serves so many purposes. It's not just to learn about what's happening in your environment. It's also a way to connect with others and to show them that you genuinely care about them. Yes, being a good listener is another great way to hone your skill of connecting. Well, everyone I know has two ears, so I know listening isn't a problem, or at least I know that they can hear. But hearing and listening aren't the same thing, are they? If you aren't sure that you're a good listener, or maybe you want to just see if you are, ask yourself these questions. Do I interrupt people when they're speaking? Think about it. If you answered yes, pay more attention to it and stop doing it. When you interrupt others, you're sending them a message. It's a message that says, yeah, that's great, but listen to me, blah, blah, blah. You totally reduce them by interrupting what they want to say. Another question you can ask yourself is, do I ask others questions as an invitation to speak more? If you answered no, give that a try and see how it helps with lessening your interruptions and how it helps to get them to talk to you more. Look at it this way. Your mouth will get you into trouble a lot quicker than your ears ever will. Ears open, mouth shut. So there are a few ideas that can help you to become a better connector with the people you lead professionally and personally. I talked about how exercising humility helps us to connect and how we can show humility by recognizing our own limitations and admitting our weaknesses and failures. It makes us relatable as leaders and not something that others can't live up to. I also mentioned how important it is for us to become curious as leaders and how asking questions can help us to connect. When we become curious and put others first by asking questions of them, it shows our genuine interest in them. It shows we value and care about them. Don't forget the part about putting forth the effort. Connecting takes energy, and as leaders, we need to go first and make the effort to connect. That's why not everyone is a good connector. Some people aren't willing to put forth the effort. I once knew an officer who believed that when he walked into a room, people should come to him if they wanted to talk, not the other way around. He wasn't a very popular leader because he didn't put forth the effort to connect with others. Oh, and I also mentioned generosity, right? Leaders who cultivate an abundance mindset have a much easier time with this one than others who work from a scarcity mindset. You know, I only had 4 tickets to that baseball game. I could have kept them for myself and invited another couple to join me and my wife for that game. The thought never crossed my mind. And the last thing I just mentioned that helps us to connect better with others is to develop your listening skills. I gave you 2 questions you could use as a pulse check to see how you rated as a listener. And I offer some suggestions on how you can improve if needed. So there you have it, another pivot for you to consider from inevitable change, making pivots in your leadership, how to go from dictation, telling people what to do and how to do it, to collaboration by connecting with others. Thank you guys so much for tuning in again for the weekly roar. As always, I hope you know how much I appreciate you tuning in each week. Thanks for your support. Remember, please help me influence other leaders and help them to grow by sharing out this link to the weekly roar video. I'm going to post it here after the watch party in a separate post. The watch party link doesn't stay active for replay, so you don't want to share that one. Hey, I'm going to be back here next week in the Lion's Den speaking about another pivot we can make in our leadership. Now, next week, I want to talk about the importance for leaders to recognize the value of diversity and why getting away from a team of Stepford wives will be the best move you'll ever make. This pivot is all about understanding that we can't be the same when we're all diverse. I hope you're going to join me next week. All right, everybody, until we meet again next week, remember, be powerful, but stay poised just like a lion. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching the Weekly Roar live event at lionenterprise.com. If you enjoyed this video, please tell others to join us each week here in the Lion's Den. Thanks again, and see you next week.